Bring us back in, baby metal.
Yeah. All right, guys. Sorry about all the stream issues, but we're back. Baby Metal Divine Attack. Not our first time reaction, but now we're going to really go through it and pick it apart. So
the breakdown part, the analysis.
Let's do it. And just yell at me whenever you want me to pause.
You got it, big man.
Just the atmosphere of the verse is so good. Like, you got that guitar like you were talking about before in the stream going 16th notes, but then like halfway through the verse you get this other guitar in the right ear that's more of like a like high reverby drony I don't know, atmospheric sound.
It definitely is atmospheric, especially the verse. The verse is definitely the most atmospheric part of this song, which I like because I feel like it's building up to that kind of big crashing sound that's going to happen when the pre-chorus hits in and the drum rolls start.
Yeah, creating a nice frame for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. Drums.
Alright, so hang on a second. One, I really, really like the transition, the really quick transition that they use going from the pre-chorus into the chorus. You know, everything stops and you get the guitar thing. It's real quick, but real nice. There's like a subtlety about this song that's kind of hard to put my finger on about. It's not like super aggressive in your face. You know what I mean? Like there's it's really epic and big sounding, large, like I said before, like it fits in a stadium, you know, but like nothing's really jarring or anything like that. It feels real smooth the whole time. Yeah. I don't know if you get the same impression, like smooth.
Yeah, like just expert level transitions.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's very like it's like the opposite of like the song that we just listened to with Soken and Naro, where it's like Soken and Naro, like their shifts from section to section are so aggressive, abrupt. Yes, with Baby Metal, it's crafted in such a way that the transitions are much more fluid, you know. And obviously that's the intent of both bands. You know, I'm not saying it's a negative for Soken and Naro at all. It's just that like this is a really nice, obviously well put together, well structured sound. Now here, this is what I was talking about before. We just finished the pre-chorus, the first pre-chorus, and we were talking earlier about the verse kind of having this sort of like slow down, very atmospheric sound. We're gonna avoid that completely this time. That verse that we heard that first time, that's the only time that we're gonna hear that, I believe. Right? So this is going to go into
How do you remember all that?
I don't know, man. Song structure to me is like, I don't know what you see in your head, but I see like shapes and colors. So it just makes it like really easy to see the actual like story of the song in my head, like the math part of it. I don't know why, but so we're about to end this here. It's gonna skip the second verse, so that atmospheric part that we got, that was the only time that we're gonna get that. We'll get another atmospheric part later in the bridge after the second chorus, I believe. But it's not the verse. I don't think there was any vocals over it. This, we're gonna go into this sort of like post-chorus, like solo type of thing right now, right before we go back into the pre-chorus. And I like that a lot. I love having that atmosphere in the first verse, but kind of just like trashing it in the second one, because we're already on our way. You know what I mean? Like we're on the journey. We didn't need to take it back to that.
Yeah, that's something I've been addicted to since discovering Bandmate and all these awesome artists is the second verse that's nothing like the first verse.
100%. I didn't realize that. Like, a Bandmate is where I really like took notice of it, but so some of the other awesome J-rock bands out there fucking do it too, and I respect that, man. Versus, it's the anti-Metallica, right? Like, I love Metallica, but Metallica's gonna give you 3 verses. Each of them are going to be exactly the same, and they're all going to be like a minute and a half long. You know, this is like we're going to give you 1.5 verses and move on.
Yeah, it's definitely the opposite of lazy songwriting.
It's really interesting, the idea of it too. Like, I think that just like the philosophy of it, right? I think is really smart, because the chorus, aka the hook, that's where you're getting that sort of, that's what you're singing along to, right? That's the earworm part. That's the part that you expect the fans to, when it comes on, they're going to sing along to it in the crowd and stuff like that. Nobody's singing along to the verse in most songs, right?
True.
So like the idea of having a repeated verse, I don't really think is very necessary. I mean, you don't need it to.
That's a good point.
You know, you could have something that's similar to it. You could have verses, you know, quote unquote verses, and have them be like sort of like, you know, the same but different, whatever. You could do something like that, but like multiple verses that are exactly the same, I don't think is necessary. It's just kind of like a means to an end. It's just taking you to the chorus.
That's a great point that I've never thought of, is like the chorus is the part that should stay relatively the same. The verse is your time to explore with the sound.
Yeah, and obviously you could shift that around as much as you want, but it's like I think that this is a bit of a more modern style of writing, and I think that we just had grown accustomed to in the past the idea that you need to have verses and choruses, and the verses are supposed to be the same, just like the choruses are supposed to be the same. But even in choruses, usually that last one, if you do a third chorus in a song, is adjusted from the first two. You know, maybe there's added instruments in it, or a key change or something along those lines.
Get a little
so it's
bigger
like
every time.
Keeping the verses the same. Yeah, it doesn't really. You know, I kind of need those shifts nowadays. I think I've gotten a little greedy with it.
Agreed. One last thing I'll say is the shift from the atmospheric verse into that pre-chorus where it's just constant drum fills. It's just such a tasty shift. Such a dynamic.
Like, yeah, I love those drum fills too, because it's like, so it's like the da da brr, da da brr, and then brr, brr, right? So if you like break it down into the segments, right, it's like you get like the four bars, right? You get the 4 bars in the pre-chorus, and it's like half of the first 2 bars are regular beat into drum roll, and then the last 2 bars are basically all drum roll. So it's just like you have these short moments of actual drum beat. The rest of it is just drum roll, and I love it. It sounds so cool.
Do you mind if we listen from the pre-chorus?
No, go ahead.
Let it play through. Dang, that. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. Oh, I love this riff.
Yeah, this is where I thought the second verse was going to come in.
That third note is so dissonant.
Yeah. Pre-chorus.
So they just said, screw the second verse. It's just instrumental.
Just completely gone. Yo, pause one more time. Yeah, just completely gone. They just said fuck it. And I love the idea of it, man. Even listening to it again, I like it even more because, and not just for what we talked about before with the philosophy of like actual songwriting itself, but for this particular song where it does start off, I talked about how it starts off, it throws you in the deep end, right? With those big chunky chords in the beginning before it gets atmospheric, but once they get through that atmospheric part, they don't feel the need to come back to it. So once you get through that chorus, which is this really, I get like an uplifting, hopeful feel from it.
Triumphant.
What?
I was thinking like triumphant, like stand up straight, look up, or whatever.
Totally that vibe. Triumphant, that's a good word for it. But like coming from that into the atmospheric part again would be like really taking it down a notch, and I feel like we've already passed that point of the song. Like I feel like now they go into what is probably the heaviest part of the song, right? Like this is probably the heaviest part of the song. It blends really well into the second pre-chorus that's coming up also, just as well as the first one did. Yeah. Interestingly, because it's like the opposite of the first verse.
Sounds nothing like it.
yeah, it sounds nothing like it. Structurally, it's nothing like it, but it blends just as well going into the same part. And I think that this belongs here, man. Like this belongs here because we've already felt triumphant. We don't need to get like dour again. Yeah. You know? So we got heavy and fast and we stuck to it. And we're not going to slow down again until we get to the bridge, which I appreciate.
I love that. And it's not like a safe bet or a safe play to just totally skip a second verse. You know, because people are used to that song structure.
Yeah. And even in the songs that we were talking about before, it's like even with like, other bands, they'll do like a second verse and shift it around. It'll be different than the first verse, but it'll still be a verse technically, right? Yeah. Like this was just this was just like, okay, guitar solo instead of verse.
Love it. All right. I gotta say, the stereo imaging of the guitars in this chorus, too, they're just so massive. Layered, huge.
It does. Are you hearing, is there a keyboard going, there's a keyboard going on here, too, right? I'm trying to make out the riff that's going on during the chorus. I don't know. Been able to.
I like when I listen to one thing at a time, so I wasn't listening to the keyboards.
I'm trying to hear the keyboard. The mix it's blended just like perfectly. You know what I mean? So it's almost like to the point where it's hard to pick out each individual instrument, especially since we know that they're using orchestral instruments in this also. So we know that there's like a combination of electronic and orchestral instruments on top of the regular band instruments. So the mix is so well done that it's hard to pick apart exactly what's doing what. But the sound itself that it's creating is just like, I don't know, it's big. Yeah. I love it.
It's like one huge, cohesive, like singular sound coming from, who knows? They probably have like 100 tracks in this project with all the orchestral stuff and then the band and everything. But
yeah, I just want to give them credit. The engineers, you guys are fucking killing it over here. Also, the layered vocals in the chorus, I want to bring them up again. Like, I think that... Sue, it sounds to me at least like the long notes da 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 da. It sounds like those are layered, and then the final line is just Sue on her own. But I think it sounds awesome, man. I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it does. All right, let's listen again. I'm so sorry to pause again, but just that right before the chorus starts, where everything cuts out except that one little guitar to like reframe the chorus to make it sound even more huge and epic. Having that little quiet spot.
I love that little quiet spot. That transition rules.
Yeah, and then the big toms come down, bring it back in. And also, I think I've heard like these kind of big thunder clap sounds when the huge heavy drops happen, just to give it a little more power and space when it comes out.
I haven't noticed that. Interesting. I'll keep
I don't know if it's in this particular chorus, but at different parts of the song I heard it, just to make it sound huge.
Cool. Right. There's definitely something else going on too that I'm trying to put my finger on, where there's like this consistent sort of I wouldn't necessarily call it atmospheric, but like there's like a consistent heavy sound in the back that I think it's a keyboard. I don't know. I gotta hear it.
Yeah. Let's Man, when you put the two of us together, we could just pause so much.
Pinch harmonics.
Yes. All right.
Oh, the kick drum goes through that transition too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
Let's pause for a second here.
Yes.
What do you think of that bridge?
Dude, I love it. I love that orchestral, the strings kind of laggy sound. What about you?
I saw a bunch of people commenting in the comments while we were originally watching it that they were hoping that there would be a breakdown in that part instead of the kind of like slower drop down there that they did. I personally disagree. I think that was the right thing to do at that moment, because based on the trajectory that we were following, right? So like it told us what, like, let's just think about, I know I'm obsessed with structure, but let's think about this for a second, right? So it starts off, throws us into the deep end, like I said, then we get that one atmospheric part. It builds up to the chorus goes into that solo, the solo goes back into that pre-chorus, back into the chorus again. We've been
big
we've been big and fast and heavy for the last 2 minutes of the song, right? We've got all these instruments that they're messing with in here right now. And this was the point in time where they were able to say, to take it down and say, now we're back to this sort of like, we need to build you back up to that final chorus, basically. If they just kept going from there into breakdown, it might have been cool. But I don't think it would have felt like, I don't think it would have fit the message of like the structure of the song, which was not just heavy, but like heavy and epic, you know what I mean? So it's like taking it down a notch here, hearing that piano, hearing the violins, you know, and having everything kind of like get quiet while we build back up to this final chorus, I think made that final chorus feel earned.
Yeah. That's exactly, like, this is genius level composition for exactly what you just said, that the song is constantly framing and reframing different parts of the song to create a huge contrast between the two parts. But somehow, even though it's a huge contrast, it flows so well. It's not jarring or, what's the word we used earlier?
Abrupt,
yes. It's like everything flows perfectly, even though you have these giant peaks and valleys, you know?
And I do think that, like, you know, typically speaking, I personally enjoy breakdowns in, like, metal songs. I do. I like solos and breakdowns more than I like, you know, the kind of slower parts that like this, normally speaking. But I feel like it wouldn't have fit. Like, I feel like a guitar solo we already had in the second verse, and they knew they gave it to us in the second verse. And that riff that was played under the guitar solo in that second verse area was the heaviest riff that they had in the whole song, right? So it was like, we don't need to retread. We don't need to go back to what we saw after the first chorus after the second chorus again. That happened already. We got the solo, we got the breakdown riff. It wasn't like a chunky da-da-da-da-da-da-da breakdown, but it was still... That was basically a bridge also.
It felt like a breakdown because that riff was so deep and low.
Yeah, it felt like, it was like really like, it was definitely the heaviest riff of the song, like bar none. And the fact that it led into a guitar solo made it feel like a bridge. So I feel like it already accomplished that task, and we don't want to retread it again. So we get the slower part to build up to this final chorus. So let's listen to this final chorus.
All right.
And there's like electronic drums here.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe looped. I mean, like there's a low pass filter on the drums, kind of sweeping up. But I would guess it's real drums looped.
Yeah, it does. It sounds real once it comes out of the filter effects. Once it comes out again, I like that they have these like really atmospheric lead guitars going on in the background. Also, these are the types of parts of music that I find the most difficult to write, because it's really not based on what the percussion's doing, and there's a lot of space in between everything. You have to make these sounds that exist outside of the scope of normal songwriting and make them all blend together within a song. So I think this stuff is really, really difficult, even though it's technically simpler than other stuff that they've done in the song. To actually put it into a song, I find this to be like one of the hardest parts of music. So I always respect shit like this, man. Like this type of segment in a song.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when it is a softer, simpler dynamic like this, it tends to sound, like there wasn't as much thought put into it, or as much compositional thought put into it. But there's a lot going on in this particular one.
Oftentimes in those segments, more thought is put into it, because you have to make something sound good. Everything is on the pedestal right at that moment, right? Like you could hear everything that's going on. There's nothing else blocking it out. Like when you have a heavy riff or a fast riff or something, everything's coming together and it's making a lot of noise, and you could kind of like flush certain things that might not be the best out of it if you need to. This stuff, every single sound that you hear is being featured at that moment. So it's got to be perfect. You know what I mean? So whenever you're leaving space in between things, I always think you need to perfect it more than if there was no space originally.
Yeah.
So these are always harder.
Cool. All right. Oh! Dang, those vocals.
Is that just Moa?
I don't know. Like, you mean this
go back a little
voice?
bit to this last
okay.
After, so they're doing the chorus twice this time, right? And the first time it's normal, and then the second time it sounds like they change it up a little bit. The vocals sound different the second time around. I can't really hear Sue. I think that's just Moa. I could be wrong. I'm putting my hand up.
I want to hear them side by side.
Yeah, let's listen to that last chorus again, just because I think you'll be able to notice the difference between the long notes, the first 3 bars.
Okay. I just want to hear that last chorus start again, because it's such that massive. You get that low pass filter sweep again, but on the guitar, and then this. Yeah, and then this massive drum just boom, like, such a satisfying lead into the chorus.
Yeah, and they're playing with the volume levels also, just to like kind of get you amped up to get into this last part.
Yeah.
So this is Sue and Moa, I think. Sue. Now listen to this one coming up. That sounds different to me. I don't know if it's I mean, it could just be Sue again with like a filter over it or something like that. But there's a definite shift in the sound right there with that last chorus.
Yeah.
The vocals sound a little bit brighter, a little bit higher pitched, which I always think of, Moa instead of Sue in that.
Yeah, I'm not on that level with BABYMETAL yet where I can recognize their voices because I'm still kind of a noob. But I like the second part of the chorus, they're not saying lyrics anymore. They're more just doing ahs.
Yeah,
which is a huge difference, but
which is also something like if you've watched, the people that watch a lot of BABYMETAL, like when they start doing the onomatopoeias and the chant vocals, that's usually the side girls, right? Like not Sue doing that stuff. So like, just the sounds. I could see that just being Moa. And I definitely heard a shift. I don't know. It could have been like both of them again. Like there's obviously a lot of production happening here, so you put some production over there, you can make anybody sound like anything, right? But I just like to think that that was. I'm just gonna give Moa credit for it anyway. Because I want to say Moa got her own part of this song.
I also liked how the second chorus in this part they went up in a way they hadn't in any of the other choruses. It was like,
Yeah.
That wasn't
3-note, Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah, just give it that little bit of freshness that you haven't had yet. All right. Like trumpets with a mute is what it sounds like. And some low brass like tuba or something. Oh, I love brass.
Yeah, I like that shit.
Dude, I don't know why, but brass to me is so much cooler than string instruments because it's just got that nice big pumpy, attack to it where it swells and it's powerful and it's got some distortion naturally.
It does sound awesome. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like I'd much prefer to listen to brass that's already in a band that has string instruments rather than just a band that's all brass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that the combination, I think the brass enhances what's already happening in a band with string instruments rather than like, I don't know. There's not a lot of bands I've listened to that are just like brass only bands, with no string instruments.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they kind of serve two different purposes in an orchestra, That's what's cool about an orchestra is every single instrument, they don't go in and EQ each individual instrument. Each instrument is literally designed to fill a certain space within that massive sound, And like
they all have to like control their volume levels too.
Yeah.
Themselves.
That's amazing. Like
it is pretty amazing.
I can't imagine being part of an orchestra and like you're kind of a small cog, but your role is still so important to the overall sound. Dang.
So what are your ultimate feelings? Like, I don't know how much BABYMETAL you've listened to.
Not enough. This has me really excited for the rest of the new album that's coming out. Like, I'm definitely, I have no problems with it. It's a great song. I'm excited to listen again.
I think that this is so. People get on my case a lot for my BABYMETAL takes on our comments, and I'm always confused as to why, because BABYMETAL is like one of my top favorite J-rock bands out there, and I think I've listened to every BABYMETAL song that they've ever made, and I think I've liked the vast majority of it. I've actually been listening to BABYMETAL since like 2014. So I've been around with them coming up for a long time. I really, really like them. I really respect their whole act or whatever. But sometimes I say things like, I would like to see a shift in like, maybe the maturity sound or something like that. And people don't really understand what I'm talking about when I say that, or they just disagree with me. And that's perfectly fine. But I think that this song is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about, in that if I'm going to listen to a song like and I know you probably don't know this song, but like Papa Ya.
Oh yeah, I've heard Papa Ya.
Okay, so like Papa Ya, it's got like sort of these hype vibes to it, right? Like, which is cool. Hype songs are cool sometimes, right? But there's a lot of repetition to it also, you know, like they say Papa Ya like 400
Yes.
times in the song,
Yes.
you know, and eventually I'm just like, you know, okay, I get it, Papa Ya. I get the point. Not one of my favorite Baby Metal songs. Just throwing that out there. And I get a similar sort of take with a song like BXMXC. But this song made me feel much more like the vibes that I got from like Starlight, where it feels like I don't know, it feels like they've grown. Like I really feel like they've grown. Like this sounds like a mature sound to me. And yes, they have other songs like that back in the day also, you know, even from like their first album, songs like Road of Resistance, I mean, or Rondo of Nightmare, and you know, going through their catalog, they are mature sounds also.
Yeah. It's such a change from like Doki Doki Morning, you know?
Yeah. And I love that song too. Like I fucking love I think it's called IINE. I'm not sure if it's Line or IINE, but there's like one or two songs that have like rap parts in them. Like that song is maniacal. You know what I mean? Like they go from pop to metal to rap to, it's just a big crazy ass song, and I fucking love everything about it, right? But I would also say that, like, you know, this sound is the sound that I want Baby Metal to be like kind of going towards as they get a little bit older.
Yes.
You know, and it's no longer like it's not about shock value. Like back then, a lot of the thing that was happening was shock value. You know what I mean? It was like not just that there were young girls playing metal music, but like the songs themselves were fucking nuts. You know what I mean? So you hear that, you go, whoa, what is going on here, right?
Yeah.
This feels a little bit more honed in, a little bit more complete to me, a little less jarring, and more like if their whole album is to this quality, this new one, this is like exactly what I want from them.
Yeah. Me too. And that blend, like like you said, in the past, stuff may have been a little too abrupt, too jarring, but this somehow kept that same level of composition, really just a perfect blend of sounds, really interesting composition, but also easily digestible.
Like I agree with that also. You know, you get like some mainstream vibes from it, like just not like the idea that you could play this in the mainstream, you know, like it's very cohesive and very well put together, and it's not going to make you go, oh shit, what the fuck just happened, that was weird. You know, so like I feel like it can open the doors to a lot of people that maybe haven't listened to their stuff from the past, which you know, I don't want to say it was too jarring or too abrupt, like quote unquote too, you know, I don't really like using that word, because I think that it's to each their own, right? And also I really like how those songs were designed. It's just a different style. And I feel like this style for them at this point in their career is really, really nice. And I also think that we're going to hear other songs that are going to sound way different than this also on the album, and don't get me wrong, that I'm totally here for that also. It's just that, like, this is perfect for the first song that was released. Exactly what I wanted to hear out of Baby Metal in 2022.
Yeah. And I love abrupt, jarring stuff, but I know, like, Rosie doesn't. So I feel like this would appeal to her more than that past stuff that, you know, was a little bit insane.
Exactly. And that's what I kind of meant with, like, the mainstream vibes, where, like, I'm not saying, like, it's mainstream as in, like, it's simplistic or anything like that. I just mean, like, the overall vibe of the song, I think, can appeal to a larger group of people that maybe some songs like, you know, Give Me Chocolate or, you know, Karate or Line, or even going back to Metal Galaxy, Papa Ya, or... you know, like, I don't know if you've heard Elevator Girl yet. I really like Elevator Girl, but it definitely is like a risky type of song. And like this, I feel like this is fucking perfect. Like this is the fucking perfect Baby Metal song. Like I said, exactly what I wanted to hear out of them in 2022.
Yeah, I didn't have any expectations because I've never been a huge Baby Metal fan yet, but like this Yeah, all I can say is I'm super excited to dig more into it and for the new stuff.
Now, all that being said, I hope they don't abandon, that jarring sort of stuff completely. Like, I do want to hear some weird shit on this album.
Yeah.
This song isn't weird. This song isn't weird. It's just really good. I do want to hear some weird shit on here. But this is a great starting spot for me.
Sweet. All right, guys. Well, it only took us 35 minutes to get through the 3.5-minute song. I mean, what did you expect with
respect to Baby Metal, man. They made us want to talk about it. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. Yes. All right. Well, thanks for making time for this, man.
All right. Thank you for signing it all up, my dude.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you guys later.